Now that we have the yearly report ready, the following workflow to develop is the System1 Upload Yearly Report. And the task of this workflow is to upload the yearly report file created in the previous workflow to the Upload Yearly Report page. For the precondition, the yearly report Excel files exist in a report folder. So this is the output on the previous workflow. And then in the System1 application, we should be on the Upload Yearly Report page. And for the post action, the report should be uploaded and we should retrieve a confirmation ID after the upload. And this workflow will have 3 in arguments and 1 output argument. So let's go back to Studio and let's create a new sequence. So again, just right click on the System1 folder and select Add New Sequence. And we will name this sequence System1 Upload Yearly Report and hit the Create button. Next, let's start by creating the 4 argument for this workflow. So let's start with the tax ID. Next is the year, then the yearly report path, and last one is the confirmation. So we will name that out confirmation and then set the direction to out, and all of the argument is of type string. Okay, so next is the first activity that we need in this workflow is an attached browser activity. So look for the attached browser activity, and here our target is the upload yearly report page. So let me update the activity label name first, and then let's indicate the upload yearly report page. And let me just check the selector. That should be fine. And next, we will be uploading a yearly report file. So we need to enter the tax ID, select a year, and then click this button and input the yearly report path on that open dialog. So let's do that in UiPath Studio. Let's start with the type into activity to enter the tax ID. So look for a type into activity, and this is for the oops vendor tax ID. And let's indicate the tax ID field, edit selector to check. I think we need to add attributes in here. So I open the UI Explorer and I will be adding the ID attributes and hit validate. Now it's good, and that should be added to the attributes of our selector. Now for the text, it should be the in tax ID argument, and make sure to enable the simulate type property of this activity. Next is we need to select the year. So for that, we will be using the select item activity. And let's indicate the drop down for the year. And as usual, we are getting this error every time we indicate a select element. So just hit OK, and same technique. Just click the button beside the selector field and open UI Explorer. And from the UI Explorer, we will click indicate element again, and I just press Alt Tab to identify or indicate this drop down. And sometimes it does not pop up. So here we have now available selector, but we need to make sure to select the select tag. And after that, select the ID attributes, the report year value, and hit validate. Then hit save. And why it's not. Alright, so now we have the selector for our select item activity. Just hit OK, and we will be taking informative screenshot. So, alright, uh, Okay, so here I will just draw a rectangle shape to my prepared screenshot or snapshot. And then for the item, it should be our in-year argument. Next is we need to click the select report file button. So we will be using a click activity for that. So look for a click activity, and let's indicate that button and check the selector. Let's see if there are other attributes that we can use. I hope it has an ID. Oh, it's a label element. Mm, it uses the AA name. I think that should be fine. So let's just leave it at as is and hit the OK button, but make sure to enable the simulate click property. And next, after we click that, what will happen is an open dialog will show up and it will need a path for the file that we will upload. So let's go back to Studio and we will be needing a type into activity to type the file path. So look for a type into activity again, and this will be for the open dialog file name. And let's indicate that field and edit the selector. And there's a lot of um, control ID attribute and let's open the UI Explorer. Let's check if we can um, fix the selector. So I don't want to use control ID, so I will try to remove that later. But here, for this combo box element, I will be selecting the AA name as well as the CLS. And then I will remove this control ID. Let me see if I can also remove this one. Try to validate and highlight. It's still working. Now I will also delete this CLS attribute here. Hit validate and highlight. It's still working. So I hope this one is good. So let's save that selector. And here, this will be our final selector for the type into the file name field of the open dialog. Hit OK and do not enable the simulate type. I don't recommend that for dialog like open or save as. Now for the text, we will input here the in yearly report path argument. So next to that, after we type the file path, we need to click the open button on that open dialog. So we need a click activity for that. So click, I will just indicate here open dialog open button. Now let's indicate the button and edit the selector. And here we have again a CLS. Let me try to remove that and hit validate. I will also try to remove this control ID and hit validate, then highlight, and it's still working. So hit OK for that. And after that, after we select a file, next step is to click this upload report button. So we will be needing another click activity for that. So add a click activity and I will just update the label name to upload, oops, and indicate the button, edit selector, and this one is good. It has an ID attribute. So hit OK. Here we can enable the simulate click and then I recommend setting the delay after of this button to 5000 milliseconds because after clicking this button, a web page alert will show up that contains the confirmation ID of the uploaded file. So it sometimes does not automatically show up. So it would be helpful if we add some delay after we click the button to give time to wait for that web page alert. So again, make sure to set the delay after property of the click activity to 5000 milliseconds or 5 seconds. And after that, we need a get text activity to capture the confirmation ID, but we need to try a sample vendor tax ID first before we get a confirmation ID. So we will be using the I will be just using my sample tax ID. So you can also use your sample tax ID. So let me just um, copy this. It's FR065748. Then I will go back here manually, type the tax ID, select the year, and for the oops, UI path, why I'm getting directed there. So the performer and go to report, data report. I will select this file and click upload. And this is what we will be expecting after clicking that button. So in the UiPath Studio, let's add a get text activity. Get text. This will be for the confirmation ID. Now indicate that and edit the selector. And it has a lot of attributes, so we need to remove here the part that is changing. So like the confirmation ID, it's changing every time we upload a new file. So make sure to remove that part of the selector. And what else can we change here? I think this should be fine. So just hit validate. We can also highlight to verify and hit OK after that. And we will be assigning a variable for the output property of this activity, and I will name that out. uh, okay, do not create a variable for that. Let's just assign our out confirmation argument, and then next we need to add a click activity to click this OK button from that web page alert. So look for a click activity, and I hope that you are also updating the label name of your activity. That's a good practice, especially when you are building a a real project. When you are working with RPA, that is really helpful. So going back here, let's indicate the OK button and check the selector. And this should be good. I don't see any attributes that should be deleted here. So just hit OK. And after that, we need to um, do some string manipulation on the confirmation ID because if you notice earlier, there are part of this text that needs to be excluded. So what we need here is only this part. So do that. We will be adding an assign activity. And the purpose of this is just to get the confirmation ID. So for the to field, assign the out confirmation argument, And for the value field, we will be using substring. So let's start with the out confirmation, that's substring, and out confirmation that index of. So we need to find the pattern from the alert. That should be this. Index of that text, and then we need to add the same text with a space after the is word and that length. And I will put the syntax in the description of the video. Just hit OK after that. And now we can test this workflow. So to test the workflow, make sure to open the Upload Yearly Report page and refresh it to remove the values. And next we need to assign a default value to our in argument. So I will use again my sample tax ID for the year, set it to 2021. Now for the yearly report path, um, I need to use this path. So for the meantime, I will just use the file explorer, go to that file, report, and here ship and right click, and then click the copy as path. So that will give us the absolute path of that file, and just assign that to our yearly report path argument. Alright, and we can also add a log message so we can see the confirmation ID captured by this workflow. So add a log message. Why there's no log message? Log message, and I will just say here confirmation ID and concatenate the out confirmation. Okay, now we can test this workflow. So click run file and let's see. Okay, I think it did not click the button, but let's wait for an error to see what went wrong. Did we miss anything? Okay, we got an error on the type into because the this click did not work for some reason. Let me just check this. Mm, Let me try to validate and highlight. It's highlighting why it did not work. Okay, let's try again. Mm, yep, let me try again if I will get the same error. But before that, make sure to refresh the page and let's click run file again to test this. Okay, it seems like um the click for this button is not working. Maybe I need to remove the simulate click property. I need to disable that. Yep, I will stop it now. I know it will error again on that part. But before that, let me try to manually click it. It's working, so there's no problem with that. Let's go back to UiPath Studio and I will um, remove or disable the simulate click property. And yep, hit save and let's click run file again to test. Now it clicks. Next is it should type the yearly report path, but I did not type it. So that's another error that we need to fix. Mm, simulate type is not enabled, and did I close the pop-up? Let me just validate my selector if it's still working. Well, it is, but it was not able to type. So maybe there's a problem between the delay of picture activity. I will try to add a delay after. I will try to set the delay after attribute of the select report file. I will be using 5000 milliseconds, and then yep, that should be good. Click save, and in the system 1 make sure to refresh the upload yearly report page, and here in your iPad Studio click run file, and it is still not typing to this field. I don't know why. Let me check it again. We have a value. Yeah, we have a value, so should not be a problem. I'll stop that. The selector is okay. Mm, let's try to add additional attributes. I see another combo box in here. Maybe we should use this one instead of the this element. So let's try to activate that. And here, let's select the focusable attribute as well as the AA name. And let's try to remove the control ID as well as the CLS attribute, and hit validate. Make sure to highlight as well to valid to verify. And let's save that selector. And all right, so maybe we can remove the 5000 milliseconds delay after that I set, because it's not a problem with delay. It's the problem with typing into the element. So now let's save this workflow and just make sure to refresh the upload yearly report page. And now we test again the workflow. And now it's typing the path for our yearly report file. And it get the confirmation ID, and it also closed the web page alert pop-up. And here we can see that we got the confirmation ID in the log message. So we can say now that this workflow is working properly. So we can now move to the next workflow. But before that, make sure to remove the default value that we assign to the in arguments and save the workflow. So for the next step, we will be creating the update work items workflow. So I'll see you in the following video.